the Greek saying, caveat emptor, right? Buyer beware. Remember those days when you went to the used car sales lot and there was, the salesperson did anything they could for you to buy that car? Oh, this car was owned by a little old lady from Pasadena. And the responsibility was on you, the buyer, to make sure you got what you thought you were getting. Well, those days have changed a bit, at least in the real estate world, and specifically the residential real estate world. We, by law, as licensees, are required to disclose material facts about a property. Those material facts could be, the video we're going to see talks an awful lot about the condition of the property. Are there leaks? Are there cracks in the foundation? Are there bug infestations? All of those bits, we are required to disclose those facts. Let's take a look at a couple of videos that talk to and about, what a material fact is and how it may be handled by an agent.
Let's take a look at a material fact, something that might be a material defect. And over here to my right, I've got the classic one. Here's a water stain or water damage. You can see that obviously there's been water dripping here. You can even see that it's dripped down the side of this wall here. Now, as the seller, I'd be required to disclose this material fact. As a real estate agent, I would also have to be disclosing material facts like this. However, I'm the expert in the room, and a real estate agent might want to consider even looking up and saying, well, look at this. I can see this fixture here on this cooling unit is rusted. That might be what's leaking and causing this water damage here. As a real estate agent, I would want to recommend that the parties to the transaction get this investigated. Now, first I would disclose this to the party I represent if I was a real estate agent and discovered this, and then I would make sure I disclose it to all parties in the transaction. Now, let's say that I was the seller of a property, and I happen to be aware that this big ventilation pipe up here, this ventilation pipe, when it's hot and humid outside, it becomes covered with water, and the water actually drips down here. But as the seller, I do not inform my real estate broker when I list the property for sale. So the real estate broker is unaware of this latent or hidden material fact, this latent defect. In that case, the real estate broker could not be held liable for something the real estate broker didn't know. So if the seller withholds that latent material defect from the real estate broker, the broker would not be liable. Just one more thing I can show you here. You can even see the water staining here. So again, the real estate broker might take a look at this and see obvious water staining, but we can't see the cause of it. Yet again, the real estate broker would recommend the party to the transaction have this investigated by an expert.
Speaking of water damage, I'm at a residential property with a very clear example of water damage. Just take a look at the ceiling and you can see extensive water damage. And of course, this is a material fact or defect that the seller and the broker would of course have to disclose. Now, the seller doesn't necessarily know what's going on behind that drywall in the ceiling. There could be more extensive damage going on, such as problems with the electrical, there could be mold, but the seller may not necessarily know because it is of course behind a solid object, the drywall. That is an example of a latent defect, a possible latent or hidden defect. Now, the cause of this water damage stairs, so let's go take a look at the bathroom. Of a material fact you can see here is the crack in the ceiling that extends down the wall and then continues on along the back of the shower surround. The seller and the broker would need to disclose this material fact or material defect. However, the seller doesn't know if there's additional damage behind the drywall necessarily. There could be mold, there could be damage to the framing, and the seller wouldn't know unless they actually tore out the drywall. So the broker should recommend to the buyer that they have this inspected.
Disclosure. Here's the thing, extremely important. The number one reason why agents are taken to court is because people believe they hid material facts from them. That means a buyer buys a home, moves in, and finds a problem. and believes that the agent knew or the homeowner knew, and they're taking everybody to court. I've been there, and I can tell you it's not a pretty sight. So, realizing what you need to do in every transaction, which is your responsibility is disclosing all material facts that may affect the use and enjoyment of a property. And be very clear that you will be judged if you go to court, and the first thing the judge is going to look for is, did you misrepresent the facts? Did you create a situation where you were trying to fraudulently or create a fraud situation where you were not disclosing material facts, or you were changing the way you described a material fact? As opposed to, say, puffing, right? Like when I say in a marketing piece, or if I say when meeting a buyer that, oh, you're lucky to be in this home, this is the greatest neighborhood in the city. And they find out later that another news agency had rated that community, number 3 on the list. And they said, you know what, you told us it was number 1, and you never cited the list, and you were doing a puffing comment. It's the greatest community, and our skies are the bluest skies, and our people are the kindest people. That's different than misrepresentation or fraud. So, when dealing with properties, make sure you understand that you have to disclose material facts that may affect the use and enjoyment of a property by the buyer going forward, and that your seller is also responsible for disclosing. And there may be things wrong with a property that on visual inspection you don't know about. And understand this, if you don't know about it and you can't see it and you can't understand it, then you're probably not going to be held liable for it. So disclose what you can, know the law, and one other bit. Some communities have special disclosure requirements. Some communities require you to disclose mold. If there's ever been mold in the property before, you have to disclose that. And if there's ever been radon detected in the property. In fact, some communities require you to do radon tests and then disclose the results. Make sure you line up your disclosures properly, understanding that when you're doing it, and if you do it right, you're going to keep yourself from having to go to court to explain your actions later.